It's just over a week to go until election day in the UK, and the pound has popped above 130 against the US dollar in anticipation of a Conservative majority government. The recent polls suggest that Boris Johnson's Conservative Party are going to secure that majority in Parliament in just over a week's time, and this comes as Donald Trump visits the UK for a NATO summit. Now, many were perceiving this to be an opportunity for Jeremy Corbyn to close the gap. As we all know, the NHS has been a controversial point of discussion throughout this election process, with Jeremy Corbyn accusing the party of effectively selling off parts of the NHS to the US in a trade deal. Now, Donald Trump has been asked questions about the NHS and the election and has refused to talk about the election, but has also rejected claims that the NHS would be on the table, despite having previously suggested that everything, including the NHS, would be on the table during his last visit while Theresa May was Prime Minister. Now, this is really important because it's such a controversial point of this election campaign. Donald Trump choosing not to discuss it on this occasion has effectively ruined an opportunity for Jeremy Corbyn to capitalise on the NHS as such a big issue. And as the polls have widened in favour of the Conservative Party, the pound has jumped higher due to this lost opportunity. Now, the pound has been trading between 128 and 130 against the US dollar for quite some time now. As you can see on the chart here, it has consolidated between this range ever since the election was first called. Now, we've said throughout this entire process, this is the most unpredictable election that we've had in decades, and that's probably one of the reasons why we have seen this consolidation. Traders not wanting to commit one way or another. Traders have been burned plenty of times in the past. All we have to do is look back to the 2016 Brexit referendum, when we did see that Remain was a clear favourite. In fact, some odds makers were predicting that it was a more than 90% chance that the UK was going to vote Remain on the actual referendum day, with traders then to be burned. We saw the pound rallying in the lead up to this day and on the day itself, and as we saw in the immediate aftermath of that, it did fall by 10%. Again in 2017, the poll suggested that Theresa May's Conservative Party had a clear lead in the election and was strongly expected to get a majority, leading the second favourites, the Labour Party, by more than 100 seats. This also didn't materialise, and in fact Theresa May actually fell short of the majority. So people's trust in the polls has severely waned in the aftermath of both of these results. But as we're getting closer to election day now, it seems that people are starting to buy into the polls just a little bit more. Again, the prospect of them being burned once again is a very real factor. But we are still seeing the pound rallying through 130 now over the last 24 hours and pushing above 131. Now, there's two things we should highlight here. One is the fact that the breakthrough 130 with it is going to take out a number of stops along the way. So it is highly likely that this move has been exacerbated by these stops being taken out. One thing people are now going to be focused on is the ability of this to potentially be a fake out. The fact that we have seen prices push through 130, take these stops out, we need to see a close above 130. A close above 131 would be an even more significant signal here that this is a proper bullish breakout. Prices could still potentially reverse, and if we see it close below 130, then this will be known as a fake out, where prices have just been carried away by these stops being taken out and quickly reversed back into the territory we were trading at previously. So this is what traders are going to be really focused on now. If we close above 130, 131 by the end of today, then this looks like a more sustainable breakout. Although again, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Conservatives are going to secure that majority, and it could just be the latest example of people becoming too bullish too early and eventually being burned.